أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله والصلاة والسلام على إمام القبلتين ونبي الحرمين وأفضل الثقلين وجد الحسن والحسين الذي سمي في السماء بأحمد وفي الأرض بأبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيت الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الصادقين اللهم صل وسلم وزد وبارك على صاحب الدعوة النبوية والصولة الحيدرية والإسمة الفاطمية والحلم الحسنية والشجاعة الحسينية والعبادة السجادية والمآثر الباقرية والآثار الجعفرية والعلوم الكاذمية والحجج الرذوية والجود الثقفية والنقابة النقبية والهيبة العسكرية والغيبة الإلهية اللهم عجل فرجه وسهل مخرجه. أما بعد فقد قال الإمام زين العابدين اللهم إنك أعنتني على ختم كتابك الذي أنزلته نورا صدق مولانا الإمام زين العابدين. For the love of Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam, sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. For the love of Fatima al-Zahra, a second salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. For the hastening of the reappearance of the master of our time, a louder salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. When one examines the system of divine guidance, they'll find that Allah has always sent His prophets with a miracle according to the medium of that time period. That in the time period of Nabi Yusuf, you find the medium and the chief art of that time was the interpretation of dreams. So Allah, He gives Yusuf an ability to interpret dreams which is unparalleled. In the time period of Musa, you find the chief art form was magic. So Allah, He gives Musa the staff which would turn into a snake. He gives him the illuminated hand. And in this manner, the miracle of Musa was according to that time period. In the time period of Nabi Isa, of Jesus, you find the chief art of that time was medicine. So Isa was given the ability to cure the blind, to heal the leper, to bring the dead back to life. So you find the question comes up is that what was the art form in the time of Rasulullah? You find that there were two things which the Arabs of that time, they prided themselves in. Number one was their literature and the strength of their Arabic. The second was their ability to fight with the sword. So you find Allah, He gives the reply to both of them as a miracle, as a mu'jiza. The reply to the sword of the Arabs was the dhat and the personality of Amir al-Mu'mineen. And the reply towards the Arabic of the Arabs was the Quran as a miracle. You see, in every language, you have two categories. You have poetry and you have prose. Prose, of course, is straightforward speech, what I'm engaging in right now. In Arabic, poetry is called nadam. Prose is called nathar. But there is only one language in the world that there is a third category, which is not poetry, which is not prose, and that language is Arabic, where the third category is Quran. So you find the reality of this Quran is that this Quran was seen as a miracle by the society of that time. You know, as in it's stated that when Surah Al-Kawthar was revealed, they hung Surah Al-Kawthar on the walls of the Kaaba. When they hung Surah Al-Kawthar on the walls of the Kaaba, at that time period, there was a poet by the name of Shah. This Shah, one unique characteristic of his is that he would only speak once a year. He would say that if I am constantly speaking, then there will be times where my words are eloquent and other times where they're not eloquent. So once a year, there would be a type of conference or a gathering, he would recite his poetry. But the other times of the year, people would take their poetry towards Shah. They would ask about their poetry, and through indication, through ishara, he would tell them what is wrong with their poetry. So they said that we will take Surah Al-Kawthar towards Shah. When they took Surah Al-Kawthar towards Shah, he looks at Surah Al-Kawthar. Inna a'tainaka al-Kawthar. Fasalli li rabbika wanhar. Inna shani'aka huwal abtar. He recites these lines, but over here, that Shah, all year he wouldn't speak. He says, Ma hada min kalam al-bashar, bal huwa fawqa min kalam al-bashar. He says that this is not from the words of any human beings, but rather it is more elevated than the words of the human beings. You see, the reality of the miracle of the Prophet is that for other prophets, their miracles, you had to be there in a specific time and a specific place. That to see the illuminated hand of Musa, you had to have a specific time and place. To see Isa bring the dead back to life, you needed a specific time and place. But the Risala and the messengership of Rasulullah is until the day of judgment. So the miracle of Rasulullah must be a living miracle. You find that miracle is none other than the Quran and the reality of the Quran. You see, Imam Zainul Abidin about the Quran, he has a famous tradition. He says, Lo mata ma bain al-mashriqi wal-maghrib lamastawhashtu ba'da an yakuna al-Quran ma'i. The Imam, he says, that if everything from the east to the west were to perish and pass away, even then I wouldn't feel loneliness if I had the Quran with me. You see, when Imam Zainul Abidin is saying that if every single thing were to perish, can you imagine what type of impact that would have upon you, isolation like that? Imam Zainul Abidin is saying that even then I wouldn't feel any loneliness. See, the question from here immediately arises that why is it that when Imam Zainul Abidin would feel such a connection and yearning towards the Quran, whereas when you and I think of the Quran, we don't have the same inclination, that we read 3 pages and we say this is enough, or we read for 30 seconds and we say this is enough. That where is the disconnect? You find at one level, without a doubt, it's because we don't understand the reality of the Quran. We don't understand the true nature of the Quran. Because when you look at the Quran, correct, you find its true nature is not just the words that we read or the words that we hear. The true nature of the Quran is that all of the divine realities were composed within the Quran. And what we read is only the form of the Quran. It's not the haqiqat and the realities of the Quran. You know, Imam Muhammad al-Baqir, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi, Imam al-Baqir would state that the Quran has a dhahir and an outward. And the Quran has a batin and an inward. And he says the inward of the Quran has 70 inward realities. Then he says, if you want to know the outward reality of the Quran, it is with us Ahlul Bayt. And if you want to know the inward realities of the Quran, it is with us Ahlul Bayt. As an Amir al-Mu'mineen, when he would speak about the Quran, he says that there is not a verse that it was revealed in Medina or outside of Medina except that I know its reality. There is not a verse which was revealed in travel or at home except I know its reality. There is not a verse which is the abrogator or the abrogated except I know its reality. When Ali bin Abi Talib, he speaks about the Quran, he is going to show that he understands the reality of the Quran. And in the same way, you find this continues with Imam Zainul Abidin. Because now that I propose this question, some may ask that how do we understand the true nature of the Quran? And without a doubt, one of the most profound sources to understand the nature of the Quran is dua number 42 from Sahīfah Sajjadiyah. That within this dua, Imam Zainul Abidin, he would recite this when he completed a recitation of the Quran. But within this dua, you find Imam Zainul Abidin shows what the reality of the Quran is. You see, these days of Muharram and these days as we approach Ashura, in many ways they are the days of building our relationship with the Quran. As when they asked the famous scholar, that how do we know what the relationship we have with the Imam of our time if the Imam is in occultation? He replied by saying, reflect upon your relationship with the Quran. What your relationship with the Quran is, that is your relationship with your Imam. Because after all, these are the two weighty things which were placed next to each other. You know, they said to Imam Sadiq that on the day of Ghadir, when Rasulullah, he said that I leave behind Quran and Ahlul Bayt, how were the fingers of your grandfather upon that day? You see, in Arabic, each of the fingers has a different name. The first finger is called Sababa. The second is called Wasta. Imam Sadiq says that upon the day of Ghadir, when my grandfather said, I am leaving behind the Quran and Ahlul Bayt, it was not these two fingers. It was not Sababa and Wasta. He says, but rather it was these two fingers. The man says, O Imam, what is the difference between these two and what is the difference between these two? The Imam said, when you look at these two fingers, one is bigger than the other. But when you have these fingers, you find that these are the ones which are equal. When my grandfather said Quran and Ahlul Bayt upon the day of Ghadir, you find he was showing how parallel these two realities are. For one is the silent Quran and the other is the walking Quran. But you find at another level, that in many ways, when you look at the companions of Sayyid al-Shuhada, you find that these individuals were individuals who had a relationship with the Quran. Oftentimes in majalis, you hear the name of Burair bin Khudayr. Burair, who was a companion of the Imam, when Tabari would write about Burair, he would say that he is Sayyidul Qurrat, that he is from the leaders of the reciters of the Quran. But further than that, you find we have the example of the lady Fidda. It's stated for 20 years, the lady Fidda, she spoke nothing but the Quran. One day a man, Abdullah bin Mubarak, he narrates that I saw Lady Fidda lost within the desert. I didn't know who she was. So I went up towards her and I said, "Oh lady, are you lost?" She replied to me by saying, فَقُلْ سَلَامٌ فَسَوْفَ يَعْلَمُونَ. That say salam and soon they shall know. From that I understood that she wants me to say salam towards her because I didn't say salam. After that I said to her, "Oh lady, are you lost?" She says, وَمَنْ يَهْدِ اللَّهِ فَمَا لَهُ مِن مُضِلٍّ. The one who Allah guides can never be lost. He says, I understood from this that she was lost. But I asked her two questions. She replied both times from the Quran. I began to think, is she even a human being or is she a jinn? So I asked her. She says, Ya Bani Adam khudu zinatakum inda kulli masjid. O son of Adam, put on your adornments at every place of worship. She said, Banu Adam, I understood she was a human being. I said to her, where are you coming from? She says, Ulaika yunaduna min makanim ba'id. That they called off from a far off place. He says, from this I understood she is coming from somewhere far. So I said to her, where are you going? She says, وَلِلَّهِ عَلَى النَّاسِ حِجُّ الْبَيْتِ, that for Allah it is incumbent upon man to go to Hajj. I understood she is going towards Hajj. I said, how long are you lost for? She says, وَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ وَمَا بَيْنَهُمَا فِي سِتَّةِ أَيَّامٍ. That Allah, He created the heavens and the earth and all that which is in between in 6 days. I understood she's been lost for 6 days. I said, oh lady, are you hungry? Do you want something to eat? She says, وَمَا جَعَلْنَاهُمْ جَسَدًا لَا يَأْكُلُونَ الطَّعَامِ. That we did not make them bodies that do not eat food. I understood she was hungry. I said, okay, you see that caravan over there? That caravan is going. Why don't you run and join them? She says, لَا يُكَلِّفُ اللَّهُ نَفْسًا إِلَّا وَسْعَهَا. That Allah does not trial and task a soul more than it can bear. I understood that she didn't have the capacity to run. I said, okay, come upon my camel, sit behind me, and then we'll go. She says, لَوْ كَانَ فِيهِمَا آلِهَةٌ إِلَّا اللَّهُ لَفَسَدَتَا. That if there was another God besides Allah, there would be corruption. I understood she is trying to say that if we sit on the same camel, you are not my mahram, that this would be corruption. He says, very well, I'll get off the camel and you can sit upon it. Lady Fidda, she sits on the camel. She says, Subhanalladhi sakhara lana hada wa ma kunna lahu muqrinin. That all praises belong to Allah. Free from defects is Allah who has made this subservient to us. The man says, I keep thinking that this lady, she keeps replying with the Quran. But at one point, I see 4 men from a distance coming. I said that, do you know who these men are? She replies 4 verses of the Quran. وَمَا مُحَمَّدٌ إِلَّا الرَّسُولُ يَا دَاوُودْ إِنَّا جَعَلْنَاكَ خَلِيفَةً فِي الْأَرْضِ يَا يَحْيَا خُذِ الْكِتَابَ بِقُوَّةٍ يَا مُوسَى إِنِّي أَنَا اللَّهُ. I understood that she is trying to say that their names are Muhammad and Dawood and Musa and Yahya. So I said to her, who are these people whose names that you know? She says, Al-Malu wal-Banun zinatul hayatid dunya. That your wealth and your children are the adornments of the life of this world. I understood that she is saying, these are my children. And the moment the children of Lady Fidda meet her, she says, Ya abate ista'jirhu, reciting from the Quran that, oh my father, pay these individuals. So my sons, they took out wealth, they gave it towards that man. Then when they gave it towards the man, Lady Fidda, she says, Wallahu yuda'ifu liman yasha, that Allah increases for the one whom He wants. The children say, we understood that she is saying, give more towards this individual. That man, he says, that I was with your mother, that she has replied with nothing but the Quran towards me. That who is this lady? The children, they say that this is our mother Fidda, who was the servant of Fatimatul Zahra, the daughter of Rasulullah. And for 20 years she has spoken nothing but Quran and from the verses of the Quran. You see, these were the servants of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. That upon the night before Ashura, when the army of Umar bin Sa'ad, they would listen towards the companions and to the family of Ahlul Bayt, they would say that we would hear the recitation of the Quran like the buzzing of the bees coming forth. That's how in sync and how in unison they were. And without a doubt, as I said, that to reach the status of connecting with the Quran, we need to understand what the reality of the Quran is. Imam Zainul Abidin, within this dua number 42, he says that, oh Allah, Allahumma innaka a'antani ala khatmi kitabika alladhi anzaltahu nuran. That, oh Allah, you help me complete this book which you revealed as a nur and as a light. The first quality of the Quran, if we are to understand the reality of the Quran, is to understand the Quran as a nur and understand the Quran as a light. You see, light is of different types. You can have this light which is shining towards me, or the light of the sun. But what are you able to see with this physical light? You're able to see objects which are dark, that which you not normally would be able to see, you're able to see that. But you find, no, over here there is a different type of light. This type of light allows you to see the realities of things. This type of light allows you to have insight, O human being, in your life when you do not know what the path of truth is and what the path of falsehood is, and when you don't know what the solution towards your problems is, and you are left in darkness. That in many of the du'as, hardship is compared with darkness. You find the Quran, it sheds light upon this reality, that oftentimes many things are compared with light. That when that man, Unwan al-Basri, he comes to Imam al-Sadiq, he says, "Oh Imam al-Sadiq, that give me from your knowledge." Imam al-Sadiq says, "Oh man, لَيْسَ الْإِلْمُ بِالتَّعَلُّمِ إِنَّمَا هُوَ نُورٌ يَقَعُ فِي قَلْبِ مَنْ يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ تَبَارَكَ وَتَعَالَى أَنْ يَهْدِيَهُ." That knowledge isn't acquired by learning. Knowledge is a nur and a light which Allah places in the heart of the one whom He wants to guide. You know, I remember in Najaf al-Ashraf, one day I was returning from Karbala, and I met an individual who said towards me, "Oh Sayyid, can I give you some advice as you're a student over here in Najaf?" I said, "Absolutely." He said, "This advice was given to me by one of the urafa of Najaf." I said, "What is this advice?" He says that if you truly want knowledge, then go towards the dari of the Imam. Put your heart on the dari of the Imam and say, "Rabbi shrah li sadri, wa yassir li amri." And then say, "Ya Ali, allimni kama allamtal ulama wal fuqaha." That you say, "Oh Allah, expand my chest and make my matters easy for me." And then say, "Oh Ali, teach me in the way that you taught the scholars and those who are learned." You know, there was a famous scholar in Najaf by the name of Murtada Ansari. There was another individual. He spent 20, 30 years in Najaf, but he wasn't able to study properly. So before leaving Najaf, he goes towards the shrine of the Imam. He says, "Oh my master, I tried and I made an effort, but I wasn't able to learn how I was supposed to. That, oh my master, don't let me leave Najaf empty-handed." He says, that night, in my dream, I saw Amir al-Mu'mineen. Amir al-Mu'mineen, he whispered, "Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim" into my ear. He says, after that, there was a level of comprehension I had which I never had in my life. So he says, I went to go sit in the Darsul Kharij in the highest class of Sheikh Murtada Ansari. You know, Sheikh Murtada Ansari, when he would have this class for experts, his style is that he would give his evidence, then he would give the counter argument, then he would destroy the counter argument, and then he would say, "This is my conclusion." That when he would give a lesson, no one had the audacity to say anything. But you find this man, one day he says, "I'll sit in the class of Murtada Ansari." When he sits in the class of Murtada Ansari, he says, "Sheikh, you were wrong on this." Sheikh al-Ansari says, "Bring your dalil." When he brings the evidence, he proves Sheikh Murtada Ansari wrong in front of his students. Sheikh Murtada Ansari says, "See me after class." When he sees him after class, he says, "Oh man, the one who read Bismillah in your ears, he read all the way up to Dhaleen in my ears, that he read all of Fatiha in my ears." You see, knowledge in many ways is a divine grace from Allah. Yes, the condition is there that you make an effort, but at the end of the day, many times we make an effort, but we're not able to retain. Many times we make an effort, but we go to the wrong source. But you find Ahlul Bayt, they show that at the source of illumination is the guidance of Allah, and the source of illumination is the knowledge of the Quran and the Hadith. That when you look at Ziyaratul Jamia, correct? within this ziyarah, which explains the reality of Ahlul Bayt, within that ziyarah you say, وَكَلَامُهُمْ نُورٌ, that the words of Ahlul Bayt are light and nur, that they're able to give insight. One day a person comes to Shaykh Abbas al-Qummi, you know, the author of Mafatihul Janan. Mafatihul Janan. When they come to Shaykh Abbas al-Qummi, that lady, she says, Shaykh, my son is sick, can you read a dua? This man who had compiled this book of duas, she's asking, can you read a dua? Shaykh Abbas al-Qummi, he says, bring me a glass of water. When they bring a glass of water, he places his finger in the water. He says, now go and give this to your son. When the son, he drank that water, he ended up being cured. That lady, she comes back, she says, oh Shaykh, the moment my son drank this water, my son was cured. What did you recite over this water? He says, I recited nothing over this water. She says, what do you mean you recited nothing? He says, I put my finger within the water. With this finger, I've written thousands of the hadith of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, that through the right of those hadith, your son was cured. So you find this is the reality of the Quran. This is the reality of the hadith, that it is a light. After that, the Imam, he says, وَجَعَلْتَهُ مُحَيْمِنًا عَلَى كُلِّ كِتَابٍ أَنزَلْتَهُ وَفَضَّلْتَهُ عَلَى كُلِّ حَدِيثٍ كَسَسْتَهُ. That, oh Allah, you have made this book definitive over every other book that you revealed, and you have preferred it to every other discourse which you have narrated. You see, the second reality of the Quran that we understand is that the Quran is a book of guidance. That although there may be scientific facts within the Quran, and although there may be history within the Quran, but the true nature of the Quran is hidayah. The true nature of the Quran is guidance. And the Quran, it says, وَلَا رَتْبٍ وَلَا يَعْبِسٍ إِلَّا فِي كِتَابٍ مُبِينٍ. That there is nothing wet, nor is there anything dry, except it's within the Quran. So I ask you this question, that if the Quran is saying every reality is in there, then how I should program my iPhone should be within the Quran. And how I should fix my tire should be within the Quran. And how I make bread or mishkaki should be within the Quran. But where is this within the Quran? You find number one answer you can give is that the principle of everything is within the Quran. One day Imam Sadiq was asked that you say everything is within the Quran. Is how to make bread within the Quran? Imam Sadiq says, yes, it's within the Quran. The man says, what do you mean? He says, the Quran says, فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Ask the people of knowledge if you don't know anything. So this principle is given over here, refer to the experts. But at the second level, I'll give you an example. That if somebody places an x-ray in front of you, and you're not a radiologist, that x-ray may have every single thing wrong with the person. But when you look at it, you're not able to deduce that reality. Why? Because you don't have the qualifications. You are not a radiologist. But when you take that same x-ray, the exact same x-ray, and you place it in front of the radiologist, that radiologist will say that this is the fracture, and that fracture is a hairline fracture, and this is the break within the bone. That same x-ray, he is able to deduce the reality. Why? Because he has the qualifications. When the Quran says everything is within this book, you find that it is there, but the qualification is infallibility and isma. That's why all of the realities of the book, Ahlul Bayt are able to bring all of those realities. So from the first level, you find from the Imam's dua, we understand that the Quran is a light and a nur. At the second level, we find that the Quran is a book of guidance. After that, the Imam, he says that this book, in a different part, he says, إِشْشِفَاءً لِمَنْ أَنْسَتَ بِفَهْمِ التَّصْدِيقِ إِلَى اسْتِمَاعِهِ. He says that this book is a cure for anyone who with comprehension and confirmation reads this book. You see, the next quality of the Quran that we see is the universality of the Quran. And I say this line with full responsibility, that outside of the Quran, there is no holy book that addresses all of humanity as a whole by saying, Ya ayyuhan nas, that, O mankind. Not no other book amongst any religion addresses all of humanity by saying, O mankind. This goes to show that although the Quran is the book of Allah, and the Quran was sent for the Muslims, the goal of the religion of Islam is not just the guidance of Muslims, but rather it is a system for the entire inhabitants of the earth. You see, I'll give you an example, and that example is this, is that if you have a town, and there is a town, there are many individuals in the medical community in that town, but one day somebody comes and they say that we have this drug, and through this drug that every illness will be cured, and even death will be delayed by this drug. Would everyone like such a drug to be out in the market? No. There will be many businesses which are taken out. The doctors won't have a business. The pharmacists won't have a business. The grave diggers, they won't have a business. So somebody amongst that town, they say that we will make a drug. It'll look the same. The tablet will be the same. The capsules will be the same. But instead of giving cure, it will be a poison to the rest of the town. You see, the reality of Islam is this. Islam was there to guide all of humanity, but there were individuals who saw that the best way to defeat Islam is from within the folds of Islam. So they created a form of Islam that the Allahu Akbar was the same, the beard was the same, the form was the same, but instead of the essence of Islam, you find it was a poison to the rest of humanity. And it took a Hussein to show that there needs to be someone to show the true essence of Islam. Imam al-Hussein, he says, إِنَّمَا خَرَجْتُ لِطَلِبِ الْإِسْلَافِ أُمَّتِ جَدِّي. The Imam says that I am only leaving to reform the nation of my grandfather. I ask you a question. Your entire life you heard Hussein is for humanity, that anyone who is a human being can appreciate Imam al-Hussein. But why is it that over here Imam al-Hussein doesn't say that I am reforming the world? He says I am reforming the nation of my grandfather. Because Imam al-Hussein over here is showing that my identity is Islam. I am a Muslim. I am the grandson of Rasulullah. It is only through the identity of Islam that I am able to reform the entire world. The moment you lose your Islamic identity for unity, you find at that point you're doing a counterproductive goal. But you find if you present Islam as its truest nature towards others, then there is no one who cannot appreciate Islam if their heart is opened. So you find this is that reality, that number one, the Quran was a light. Number two, the Quran is a book of guidance. Number three, the Quran has a universal nature at a level when it says, Ya ayyuhan nas. But number four, the Imam in this dua, he shows that the Quran is that reality which is contained in the hearts, not in the mind. Imam Zainul Abidin, he says, Allahumma fakama ja'alta qulubana lahu hamalatan. That, oh Allah, you have made our hearts the vessels of the Quran. You see, I said before that when you translate the Quran, it is a translation of the Quran, it is not the reality of the Quran. That what is the reality of the Quran? The reality of the Quran is that you take a regular piece of paper, you can do what you want with it. The moment you write Quran on it, now you do wudu and you purify yourself before you touch it. The reality of the Quran is that you find that there is sound within every room. But the moment the Quran is recited, even those sound waves have barakah and blessing. And the Quran, it says, وَإِذَا قُرِيَ الْقُرْآنِ فَاسْتَمِعُوا لَهُ. That when the Quran is recited, pay attention towards it. And find this reality of the Quran is explained in a hadith related to Imam Zainul Abidin. It's stated that oftentimes when Imam Zainul Abidin would recite the Quran, that those who were walking by, they would go into a swoon of unconsciousness because of the beauty of the voice of Imam Zainul Abidin. That they would be overcome when they would hear Imam Zainul Abidin recite the Quran. And this hadith from Al-Kafi, it says, وَالسَّائِكَ مِنْ حُسْنِ صَوْتِهِ. That they would be overcome. They would go into the swoon, the word sa'ik, from the voice of the Imam. You know, I ask you the question, was it simply that the Imam's voice was aesthetically beautiful, or was there a different reality? That aesthetically, was it the beauty of the voice of the Imam, or is there something deeper than that? You see, without a doubt, the Imam is the inheritor of Dawood. That the voice of the Imam is beautiful. But if we are going to understand this hadith, then we go towards the Quran. Because this word sa'ika, that a swoon of unconsciousness, that being overcome, is found in one place in the Quran, and it is found in relation to Musa. The Quran, it says, وَلَمَّا جَاءَ مُوسَى لِمِكَاتِنَا وَكَلَّمَهُ رَبُّهُ. That when Musa, he came for our covenant, his Lord, he spoke towards his Lord. And he says towards him, وَكَلَّمَهُ رَبُّهُ. He says towards Allah, قَالَ رَبِّي آرِنِي أَنظُرْ إِلَيْكَ. That, oh Allah, show me yourself so I can look towards you. Allah says, oh Musa, قَالَ لَن تَرَانِي. That you'll never be able to see me. وَلَكِنْ انظُرْ إِلَى الْجَبَلِ. But oh Musa, look at this mountain. فَإِنِ اسْتَقَرَّ مَكَانَهُ فَسَوْفَ تَرَانِي. If this mountain, it remains in its place, then you will see me, O Musa. But then the Quran, it says, فَلَمَّا تَجَلَّ رَبُّهُ لِلْجَبَلِ جَعَلَهُ دَكًّا وَخَرَّ مُوسَى صَائِقًا. When Allah manifested Himself to the mountain, that mountain was rent asunder into pieces, and Musa, he fell in a swoon of unconsciousness. You see, the reality is this, is that it was the tajalli and the manifestation of Allah that would have Musa overcome. Now when Imam Zainul Abidin recites the Quran, you find when Al-Insanul Kamil, the perfect man, recites the Quran, that there is a tajalliyat and a manifestation, that when anyone hears the Imam recite the Quran, they are overcome with the reality of the Quran. For it is only the Imam who can bring forth the reality of the Quran. And it is this Imam who would spend his life in worship and the recitation of the Quran. And you see, time and time again, the Quran, it refers towards Ahlul Bayt. You see, in these nights where we remember Sayyidul Shuhada, that isn't there the chapter of the Quran, Suratul Fajr, chapter 89. And Imam al-Sadiq would say, اقرأوا سورة الفجر في فرائدكم ونوافلكم فإنها سورة الحسين ibn Ali. That the Imam says, recite Suratul Fajr in your mandatory and recommended prayers. For it is the chapter of Imam al-Hussein. That why is it the chapter of Imam al-Hussein? You see, number one, the Quran says, wal fajr, by the daybreak. In Arabic, fajr means to cleave something open. The reason the time of fajr is called fajr is because لِأَنَّ نُورَهُ يَشُقُّ ظُلْمَةَ اللَّيْلِ. Is because the light of the day, it runs apart the darkness of night. And the ulama, they say that this fajr has many manifestations. They said that the creation of existence is represented by wal fajr. They said that the coming of Rasulullah is represented by wal fajr, because it was the light of Tawheed, renting apart the darkness of shirk. They said that Imam Zaman, one of his names in the Quran is wal fajr, because he will bring light. Others, they said that one of the manifestations of wal fajr was the day of Ashura. That the Fajr of Ashura is, why is it called Fajr? Is because it is through the movement of Hussein. You find that humanity, it gains light towards these different realities. And indeed, one of the most difficult moments for Sayyid al-Shuhada on the day of Ashura was when his nephew Qasim went towards the battlefield. That who was Qasim? That Qasim was the son of Imam al-Hasan. You know, it's stated that when Imam al-Hasan was poisoned, Imam al-Hasan, he begins to vomit his liver out. As he's vomiting his liver out, you want to know what the concern of Imam al-Hasan was. Imam al-Hasan, he says, oh my brother Aba Abdullah, make sure my sister Zainab and Kulthum, they don't see this. Make sure you cover what has just happened. You find Imam al-Hussein, he begins to cry. When Sayyid al-Shuhada is crying, Imam al-Hasan, his brother, looks at Sayyid al-Shuhada. He says, Ya Aba Abdullah, atabki alayya, oh my brother, are you crying over me? Imam al-Hasan says, Abki alayk ya Aba Abdullah. But no, rather it is I who cry over you, O Hussein. Then he says his famous lines. He says, La yawmun ka yawmika ya Aba Abdullah. That there is no day like your day, O Hussein. You see, the traditions, they say that Imam al-Hasan would give his final wasiyah. But at one point, as Imam al-Hasan was upon his deathbed, a 2.5-year-old child, he comes and he sits on the chest of Imam al-Hasan. Farwa, she says, she begins to move the child. Imam al-Hasan, he says that, oh Farwa, let this child sit upon my chest. This is my Qasim, oh Farwa. Then upon that day, Imam al-Hasan, he gives something towards Farwa. And we'll find out what that thing is on the day of Ashura. But you find on the night before Ashura, on that night, Sayyid al-Shuhada, he would speak towards his companions. He would say, oh my companions, you have permission to go. I am guaranteeing you paradise. He says, oh Abbas, perhaps they're embarrassed. Take the candle out. When Aba Fadl Abbas, he extinguishes the candle and they turn it on again. All of the companions of Hussein, they stood there. That's why Imam al-Hussein, he says that I was given companions that neither my father nor my brother or my grandfather were given companions like this. But you see, as the Imam, he was mentioning the names of the Shuhada. There was one young man who was waiting for his name to be called, and that was Qasim ibn al-Hasan. Qasim, with tears in his eyes, he says, oh my uncle, you didn't call my name. You even called the name of Ali Asghar. That how will Asghar be martyred? Imam al-Hussein says, oh Qasim, a point will come on the day of Ashura that I'll be asking for water for my 6-month Ali Asghar. Instead of giving water towards the infant, they'll fire an arrow towards Asghar. Min al-uduni al-udun. That from one ear the arrow will go, out the other ear it'll come. You find after that, the Imam, he says, O Qasim, kayf al-maut indak? That how do you find death? You know, Sheikh Jafar Shushtari, he says that the reason that Imam al-Hussein only asked Qasim is a profound reason. And I'll tell you that reason why he only asked this question only to Qasim near the end of the musibah. You see, the day of Ashura, it comes. Qasim is waiting for permission. Imam al-Hussein doesn't give permission. At one point, Farwa, she says, O Qasim, when your father was passing away, he wrote this letter. O Qasim, this is for you. When Qasim, he opens the letter, you know what the letter it says? It says, Ya Qasim, Ya waladi, Ida wajatta ammak al-Hussein ghariban wahidan faridan atshana. that, "Oh Qasim, when you find your uncle Hussein alone on the day of Ashura, take this towards your uncle." When Qasim, he goes towards Sayyid al-Shuhada, he takes the letter of Imam al-Hassan. Imam al-Hussein, he reads the handwriting of his brother. Sayyid ibn Tawus, he says, at that moment, him and Qasim, they begin to cry, فَغَشِيَ عَلَيْهِمَا, that they fall unconscious as they're crying at that moment. You find that they wake up. Hussein says, "Oh Qasim, go towards the battlefield." Qasim, he goes towards the Maqtal. Qasim, he begins to fight. But as Qasim is fighting, you find that at that point it comes that they strike Qasim upon the head. But you know, when anyone would be struck on the head, they would fall to the ground. It's stated that the sandal of Qasim got stuck upon the saddle of the horse. The body of Qasim was being dragged on the plains of Karbala. Now listen to what Sheikh Jafar Shushtari says. He says the reason Imam al-Hussein, he only asked Qasim, "How do you find death?" is that every other shaheed, their body was broken to pieces after they were martyred. Qasim was that one shaheed. When Qasim was alive, the body of Qasim was... The body of Qasim was broken towards pieces. Qasim, he called for his uncle. You know, when Imam al-Hussein, whenever anyone would die, Imam al-Hussein would say a line. When Akbar died, Imam al-Hussein, he said, "Ya Akbar, ala dunya ba'dak al-afa, O Akbar. O Akbar, after you made this world become dust, O Ali Akbar." When Abbas died, Imam al-Hussein, he said, "Inkasada dahri ya Abbas. Oh Abbas, my back has become broken." But on the body of Qasim, what did Sayyid al-Shuhada say? Imam al-Hussein said, "Oh Qasim, what will I tell your mother Farwa, O Qasim?" It stated Imam al-Hussein, he goes to the body of Qasim, he places his abba on the ground, he collects the pieces of Qasim, he brings the body of Qasim to the tent. Sayyidah Zainab comes out. Imam al-Hussein says, "Oh Zainab, tell Farwa not to look." Ala la'natullah ala al-qawm al-dhalimeen, ya Hussein.
Qasim Naushad